Buenas and half a day. This public hearing is now called to order, and the time now is 9:06. I apologize for us being late this morning, but today is still February 11th, 2026, regardless. This hearing is conducted by myself, Senator Telo, Taitague, Chairwoman on the Committee on Economic Investment, Military Buildup, Regional Relations, Technology, Regulatory Affairs, Justice, Election, and Retirement. To comply to the Open Government Law, notices of this hearing was published on KUAM and the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal on Wednesday, February 4th, 2026, and the second notice on Monday, February 9th, 2026. Notice of this hearing was disseminated to all senators and media via email and is also available on the Guam Legislative website. I would like to also recognize those who are in person and those who are watching from home. Welcome to your Guam Legislature. I also like to welcome my colleagues who are here with me this morning, Senator Tina Rose Muña-Barnes, Senator Shawn Gumataotao, former Speaker, and Senator Therese Trelahi, a member of my committee. Colleagues, the copies of the legislation and documents received ahead of this hearing was put on the Google Drive for your review, and also the Google Drive link, which was also published on the public hearing notices for this hearing, and also emailed to you in advance. However, some testimonies that were presented this morning has been given to you in hard copy. For the listening public, you can access the Google Drive link on the public hearing notices published on the Government of Guam Public Notice Portal, notices.guam.gov, or on the Guam Legislative website at guamlegislature.gov. If you need any assistance, please feel free to call the legislature at 671-472-3465. Before we begin, I would like to set some rules of engagement. During this public hearing, I ask that you please speak directly into the microphone. For the record, please state your name, position, and who you represent. I ask those who are testifying today to stay seated for any questions my colleagues may have, and then you'll be excused. If you need to leave early, please let me know in advance. I respectfully ask that we conduct ourselves professionally and respect each other's opinions. Those individuals who do not comply will be asked to be removed and prohibited from further participation. So this morning on our agenda, we have Bill number 209-38 COR, introduced by Senator Tina Rose Muña-Barnes, which is an act to add a new Article 6 to Chapter 8 of Title III relative to prohibiting the creation and distribution of materially deceptive media produced by generative artificial intelligence connections with elections. Our second bill will be Bill 225-38E, introduced by Senator Shawn Gumataotao. It's an act to add 58110 of Article 1 and to amend 58205 of Article 2, both of Chapter 58, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, relative to expanding public investment and community contributions under Guam's qualifying certificate law to include emergency response resources. So we're going to begin first with Bill number 209-38 COR on the agenda. A physical note was provided to my committee on October 28, 2025, and basically it stated the bill is administrative in nature and poses no impact on the Government of Guam funds in FY26. Legal counsel also received this bill and reviewed it, and during this time, they have recommended no changes or amendments. Invitations for Bill 209 was given out to the Judiciary of Guam, Office of the Attorney General, the Guam Bar Association, Guam Election Commission, and OTEC. So at this time, I'd like to begin with Bill 209 and ask those who are here to testify on this bill to please step forward and take a seat at the table. And at this time, I'd like to allow the author of the legislation for her opening remarks. And now you are recognized, Senator.
Sizus Masi, Madam Chair and Manana Sizus, would you like me to read the title first, though? Okay, thank you. This is Bill 209-38 COR. It's introduced by myself. It is an act to prohibit the creation and distribution of materially deceptive media generated by artificial intelligence, to require clear disclaimers for altered media, to provide for penalties and injunctive relief, and for other purposes. And again, thank you, Madam Chair, for hearing this bill 209-38. I want to share to the listening audience and my colleagues that this bill addresses a growing threat to elections around the world, the use of artificial intelligence to create deep fakes that intentionally deceives voters. Bad actors are using AI to generate highly realistic audio, video, and images that falsely depict candidates saying or doing things that never occurred. I want to share that Bill 209 is designed to prohibit the knowing distribution of this kind of materially deceptive content. And over the past couple of years, we have seen real-world examples from robocalls that clone a candidate's voice to manipulated videos and images to release shortly before elections and rapidly spread online. And while, Madam Chair, Guam has not yet experienced this problem, the technology is now widely accessible and inexpensive. So taking the proactive action now helps ensure that we are prepared for this threat before this threat reaches our elections. Importantly, Madam Chair, this bill does not ban political speech or artificial intelligence. It is narrowly tailored to address only the intentional distribution of materially deceptive AI-generated media during a defined pre-election period. Unless that content is clearly and prominently labeled as altered or AI-generated, satire, parody, news reporting, and legitimate political advocacy remain fully protected. The goal of this bill, ladies and gentlemen, is not censorship. It is to safeguard the integrity of our elections and protect both candidates and voters from harmful deception. Bill 209-38 modernizes Guam's election laws to keep pace with emerging technology while respecting constitutional limits and the democratic process. So, Madam Chair, we respectfully ask the committee to consider amending the bill to include a 90-day pre-election prohibition period, which will further strengthen the bill's clarity, effectiveness, and constitutional defensibility. So that would be my only ask, to include that there be a 90-day pre-election prohibition period. So thank you very much for the opportunity for speaking on this bill, but more importantly, for hearing it today. Sainamasi.
You're very welcome, Senator. Senator Barnes. Okay, as we have someone here to testify, we'll begin with her. So please state your name for the record, and you can read your testimony. Yeah.
Manana Sidzu'us, Madam Chairwoman, and Senators of the Guam Legislature. Si Maria Pangilinan Zo, I Directori Election Guahan. Half a day, Madam Chairwoman, Sidzu'us Ma'asi, for the opportunity to provide testimony on Bill 209-38, which proposes to prohibit the knowing creation and distribution of materially deceptive media produced by generative artificial intelligence in connection with elections. The Commission acknowledges and appreciates the legislature's concern regarding the potential misuse of emerging technologies to mislead voters and undermine public confidence in democratic processes. Safeguarding the integrity of Guam's elections is a shared and fundamental objective, and the Commission recognizes the importance of addressing evolving risks to the electoral environment. At the same time, the Commission respectfully notes that Bill number 209-38 establishes a criminal and civil enforcement framework that relies on the Attorney General's enforcement and on adjudication by courts of competent jurisdiction. The bill does not assign investigative, enforcement, or adjudicatory authority to the Guam Election Commission, nor does it regulate the administration of elections, including voter registration, ballot access, voting procedures, tabulation, or certification, functions that fall squarely within the Commission's statutory mandate. The Commission's role is limited to administering elections as prescribed by law. The Commission does not regulate campaign speech, political advertising, or media content, while Guam law authorizes the Commission to administer certain disclosure and attribution requirements applicable to political advertising. That authority does not extend to determining the truth, falsity, or deceptive nature of campaign content, or to adjudicating intent or electoral harm, which are matters appropriately reserved to the courts. Determination under the bill, such as whether media is materially deceptive, whether disclaimers are sufficient, or whether intent and likely electoral harm exists, are inherently fact-specific and legal determinations appropriately reserved to the courts. Because Bill number 209-38 would be codified within Guam Election Code, the Commission respectfully notes the importance of statutory clarity regarding institutional roles. Although the bill's subject matter is election-related, its enforcement framework is judicial and prosecutorial and does not involve the administration of elections. Clear language confirming that the Commission has no investigative, enforcement, or adjudicatory authority under this article will help ensure consistent application of the law, avoiding public confusion during election periods, and preserve the Commission's neutrality and focus on its core election administration responsibilities. In that context, the Commission specifically offers the following observations for the committee's consideration. 1, clarification of institutional roles. Explicit statutory confirmation that the Commission has no enforcement, investigative, or adjudicatory role under this proposed article would reduce the risk of misdirected complaints and unintended expectations placed on election officials. 2, preservation of Commission neutrality. The Commission's neutrality is essential to maintaining public confidence in elections. Insulating the Commission from content-based disputes concerning campaign media ensures that election administration remains distinct from campaign-related enforcement and litigation. 3, operational considerations during election. Election periods are time-sensitive and resource-intensive. Absent clear statutory guidance, candidates or members of the public may seek relief from the Commission that it is not authorized to provide, potentially disrupting election administration and diverting limited resources. The Commission takes no position for or against the policy merits of Bill number 20938. The Commission respectfully recommends that should the legislature move the bill forward, it consider including clarifying language to confirm that enforcement authority rests exclusively with the Attorney General and the courts and not with the Commission. The Commission appreciates the opportunity to provide this testimony and stands ready to assist the committee with any questions related to election administration or the Commission's statutory responsibility. Sidzuis Maasi.
Sidzuis Maasi, Maria. We also have support from Aina Lee, who's here, and we also have support from Song Young Kim, who's also written and is in support of this legislation. We also received, I don't know, colleagues, if you received the testimony from Homeland Security. We also received a testimony from them. And then as well, we are waiting for the testimony of Melissa Bettis, who is with the BEADS program. As you know, that the BEADS program is a program for broadband. You know, there's about $130 million to the government of Guam that was awarded. And of course, we know about the executive order. It wasn't a moratorium, it was an executive order by the Trump administration for any prohibiting of AI or anything. But this bill, I don't think really does that. So we're going to wait for Maria Bettis to ensure that this will not jeopardize any federal funding, but I don't believe, based on the bill, that it does at this time. So other than that, I'm going to go ahead and start with my colleagues for any questions they may have. And of course, would you like to go first or the close on the, okay, Senator, you're recognized.
Thank you. Maybe just a clarification from Maria Manana Sidzuis. Thank you for coming here this morning. There are currently some penalties for false impersonation and election fraud. Do you think that this bill is needed specifically for deepfake?
You know, the trend across the states is to have these kinds of legislation, but we want to make sure that it doesn't interfere with the operations of Guam Election Commission. Yes, these kinds of bills are good for Guam.
Okay, and then for our edification, has there been any complaints about deepfakes yet to the Election Commission?
None that we know of.
Okay.
And again, you know, we want to make sure that people know that we're not in any position to decide whether it's deep fake or not.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was out there for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back to you.
You're very welcome, Senator Barnes. Senator Gumataotao, you are now recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Maria, for being with us this morning. I just have a couple comments and then maybe a couple questions, but let me just start with this. And I know that she's in the room, but the author of Public Law 38-77 that was signed into law on December 16, 2025, the new law creates a coordinated framework to guide how AI is introduced and used on Guam with very clear principles of transparency, accountability, cybersecurity, data privacy, and community protection. Again, that law establishes a multi-sector task force charged with studying emerging technologies, assessing legal gaps, supporting workforce readiness, strengthening cybersecurity readiness, and recommending policies that in fact protect the rights and well-beings of this island community. I'll just say this, in the lead up to my questions, according to the National Council of State Legislatures, Alabama's Act number 2024-349, which became effective on October 1, 2024, prohibits AI-generated election deceptive material. Also, in the state of California, Assembly Bill number 2839 was also enacted on September 17th, 2024, which prohibits a person, committee, or other entity from knowingly distributing an advertisement or other election communication as defined that contains certain materially deceptive content as defined with malice, as defined subject to specific exemptions under California state law. Now, for reference, during the June 23, 2025 public hearing on Bill 64-38, there was a brief mention of the bill's potential impact on the 2026 elections. Additionally, the Office of Homeland Security recommended at the time that AI regulatory responsibilities that are outlined in Bill 64-38, now public law, be permanently assigned to the Office of Technology rather than creating a temporary task force. According to OHS, this particular approach ensures that long-term oversight of this evolving technology while providing perhaps operational efficiency and leveraging existing technical expertise. Now, I want to just ask that based on the comments, and maybe you can help us with this, Maria, based on comments offered by Homeland Security last June during the public hearing on a separate AI-related measure, what information is available perhaps to you, if you can, I'm not sure if you've been engaging, but in your capacity working with them to coordinate the exchange of information with the Guam Election Commission, the Guam Police Department, and other local and federal partners regarding cybersecurity threats that could impact elections, and which include, obviously, Guam's lone congressional seat and a long list of local partisan and nonpartisan offices, but specifically to the congressional race, it is a federal election.
So our federal partners, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, has been offering, and we've been availing ourselves with training in artificial intelligence and the use of it during elections. We're heading out to a U.S. Election Assistance Commission Standards Board meeting, and I believe they're having, even before the meeting, some resources available, some webinars on AI.
And thank you for sharing that. I think sometimes we think that just because you guys we don't see you but every couple of years, that throughout these off times and into the cycle, that you're not trying to address some of the current policies, and appreciate the input on your travel. Yeah, something you want to add?
Yes, I want to invite the public and the senators to visit the Election Assistance Commission website at eac.gov. It provides a bunch of resources on, of course, on the administration of elections, and also on the newsletter for this month. It invites us to join an AI webinar.
Thank you for that particular public service announcement here in the Congress building. I only have one other question, Madam Chair, for Maria. Recognizing that in BBMR's fiscal note for this particular bill, it summarized that the proposed amendment is administrative in nature and that it poses no additional fiscal impact on any funds of the government of Guam in fiscal year 2026. Did BBMR reach out to the Guam Election Commission regarding this bill's potential fiscal impact? And what information, if any, can the GEC disclose at this point regarding the resources that it anticipates may be needed to ensure successful implementation of this particular measure?
We're not the administrator of the AI bill, so we don't, in terms of, we're not opposed to the bill, but we know that we want the bill to include verbiage that says that complaints should go straight to the courts or the Attorney General and not Guam Election Commission.
Oh, no. I just was going to ask, did they engage you at all?
Yes, they did.
Okay, that's all I want to know. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time. Appreciate you.
You're very welcome, Senator Gumataotao. Senator Chalahi, you are now recognized.
I share the concern of the author on the bill and the Guam Election Commission as to the roles. It looks like this bill is intended to be enforced by courts. I'm not sure if that's going to be on a timely enough basis to really meet its intent, which is to stop interference with an election when elections, as you have said, are really time sensitive. And so this looks like it might be punitive, but maybe after the fact, after the damage is done. And so I do support, there are things in the bill that talk about how you can put a disclaimer on, and then they talk about exemptions. And some of the exemptions is if the distributor does not intend to injure or harm the reputation. That seems very subjective to me, that you did not, someone did not intend to harm a candidate's reputation. They might say that was just a joke, right? But that's kind of where I think the lines are going to be very, very hard, even for a court with all its knowledge to distinguish. And other parts of the bill say doing these things is criminal. Where's that? If you know, if they knew. Or no, if they intend. It says if the distributor does not have actual knowledge that the material is prohibited, that sounds to me like ignorance of the law is allowed here for some, but not for others. And then the distributor does not intend to injure or harm the reputation or prospects of the depicted individual. Again, I just said that, but I guess instead of just my own opinion, I'm looking at the testimony provided by Guam Homeland Security, Office of Civil Defense, and they said that they respectfully oppose this bill as currently drafted. Our legal counsel has identified serious constitutional concerns that render this legislation likely unenforceable. And from an operational standpoint, the bill creates practical challenges that could undermine both free speech and our emergency response capabilities. And they go into kind of an in-depth discussion of it. Some of the highlights that I highlighted for myself said it would criminalize and create civil liability for speech based solely on its content and the technology used to create it, without requiring proof of actual malice, imminent harm, or even intent to deceive voters about core election information. It says, they talk about how Office of Civil Defense uses sometimes AI-assisted tools in emergencies to translate warnings and in different ways. And it says the bill creates both civil and criminal penalties, but it lacks clear guidance on who makes the initial determination that content is, quote, materially deceptive, unquote, versus satirical, educational, or legitimately synthetic. In the fog of an election cycle or emergency, false reports and rumors spread rapidly, adding a layer of legal complexity where officials must determine whether AI was involved, whether disclosure was adequate, and whether content crosses the threshold of, quote, materially deceptive, unquote, could slow our ability to counter misinformation when speed is essential. And so I would just urge the committee to look closely at this and get very clear guidance as to, you know, whether this is an impediment of free speech, which, of course, politically motivated speech is supposed to be one of the most protected speeches. And I just was curious because of the recent trend. Things, I know this bill was introduced a little while ago, but recently President Trump posted something on his social media that was obviously created by AI or something like that, some technology, and I'm wondering if this would make something like that illegal, and spreading that on Guam then would be illegal. Things like that. I don't think, I I just want to know, how do we enforce it against some and not against all, right? While we are all being impacted. And I mean, that was not something intended to benefit. I think the family depicted in the video, it was, so we're guessing, of course, intended to do the opposite. But that's the thing. That's where it's just, I'd like to find a way to do what the bill is trying to do without impeding on constitutional rights. I also noticed that there's a big exemption in here for internet websites, radio, television broadcasting stations, cable television operators, regularly published newspapers, magazines, or other periodicals, website or streaming service. But that's where all of this really occurs. So those are just my concerns, Madam Chair, and to the author. I support the intent. I think we have to take a very close look and narrow this down and to what we can do and how we can really support the integrity of elections, but allow people to use AI, first of all. Second of all, to be critical, as they have been. We have seen in many elections pictures of us as cartoons, and I don't know if those are AI created. I'm guessing they are. And is that prohibited then by this bill because it depicted me in a certain way? Yeah, I definitely feel it, and I understand the intent. But I think free speech, we have to combat with free speech, and as much as we can. Sizuzumasi, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome, Senator Chalahi, and thank you. Coming from an attorney's perspective, because I was hoping we would have judiciary here, as well as the Attorney General, but you can rest assured I will seek their testimonies, make sure it's in for the record so we can find that guidance as we move forward with this legislation. Understand, Maria, your concerns about this. My biggest concern was the fact that we may be losing federal funding, but I think Melissa Bettis, she's giving me some comfort knowing that we may not lose any funding from BEADS. However, you know, there's several legislation going through Congress right now, if I'm not mistaken. None of them have been, actually none of them have been passed yet, but it's going through the process. And this kind of helps us because you're looking at federal laws that are in Congress right now that actually is, some of the laws are in this legislation. So by watching that and what goes through on a federal level, you know, and if that passes, then of course Guam follows federal laws. Now, AI changes all the time. I mean, we're sitting here today, by tomorrow something has totally been eliminated, or, you know, it's old already by tomorrow. And then we're looking at what the new generation of AI is producing, which makes it even more difficult to determine what is real and what is not real when creating deceptive AI advertisements or any newspaper digitally that's put on social media. What is real? So I'm think my colleague, Senator Gumataotao, mentioned that we do have a task force, and we will be meeting in March. So I ask that the Guam Election Commission, you are always welcome to these task force meetings to find out ways that can assist you, and to be able to recognize, you know, what is fake, what is real, and also bring your concerns that you hear from the other jurisdictions, because I know that you meet regularly with the Federal Elections Commission, and so this will be very helpful moving forward. I think we're going to try to provide this same kind of protection through the task force, and take it, we will definitely take this bill to the task force and have them review it as well. So there are quite a bit of testimonies I'm looking forward to receiving. So, and then working closely with the author of the legislation to provide this protection to our public. And to that extent, I will turn it over to our good senator to close on her measure.
Situs Masi Tatlu, Madam Chair, for this. And before I finish my closing, I want to also just recognize, Madam Chair, Mr. Sang-Young Kim of the Deepfake Prevention Company in South Korea, and for literally letting us, informing us about this issue and the proliferation of deep fakes in the last election cycle in one of the most strongest democracies, which is South Korea. And he's here this morning, and I know that he's going to provide written testimony, but I just wanted to make sure that he came today in the efforts of sharing his concerns with our office. So, kamsahamnida. So again, Madam Chair, thank you to everyone who has submitted testimony today and contributed and will continue to contribute to this discussion. Madam Chair, I want to share that voting is one of the most powerful rights and responsibilities the people possess, and the strength of that right depends on voters having access to accurate and reliable information about the candidates seeking their trust. So understanding a candidate's policies, values, and governing philosophy allows voters to make informed choices about the direction they want our community to take. And deepfake undermines that process by injecting falsehoods into our elections. When fabricated audio or video goes viral, it distorts reality and deceives the electorate, often at moments when there is little time to correct the record. So, and resulting in confusion and mistrust and weakening public confidence in the democratic process itself. So, Bill 209-38 preserves integrity in our elections. It addresses that harm by ensuring that voters are not intentionally deceived during the election season. So again, thank you, Madam Chair, for putting this bill on the agenda. And I want to say I am very appreciative and positive about this work moving forward, especially with the task force, and knowing that we will continue to get together to make this bill go forward. So, Saina Maasi. Thank you.
I think this is one of two bills that you have that the task force is already looking at. So I'm sorry and apologize, Senator. I noticed on the spreadsheet the gentleman that you introduced, Sang-Young Kim, right? Would you like to, because you did say oral testimony, you just checked out oral testimony. Would you like to come up and say a few things? You know, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yeah. I was under the impression he was giving
so
written
Mr. Kim,
testimony,
please.
but he's more than welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Kim, please state your name for the record, who you represent, and maybe some comments on the legislation, the importance of it, and what you shared with the author of the bill as well.
I'm Sang-Young Kim. I'm coming from South Korea. I'm working for the Korea National Information Agency last 20 years for the public-private partnership sector information service. And also I'm a teacher of Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Deepfake Prevention. And I'm also work for the teaching to students in the South Korea local education government. As I know, AI deepfake crime coming from the student almost. So we have to prevent the student the potential AI deepfake crime. That's the reason why I'm attending here and I'm supporting to you your bill. Thank you.
And thank you so much. Colleagues, anybody has any questions for Senator Terlahi?
Yes, I'm very curious, so how do you prevent it? Or is it just by information telling them it's not allowed, or is there another way to prevent it or detect it?
The AI developed by the data from the personal information individual. So almost the AI, the service or business is illegal. So the reason why I developed by myself in the South Korea, the AI deepfake prevention system by the law. And so in Korea and in the world, AI deepfake doesn't know that the only understand the student, new generation and the next generation. So I developed myself the AI deepfake prevention data. So we provide the AI deepfake prevention data to AI. So educate the AI. So finally, prevent the AI deepfake. That's the one way to prevent AI deepfake.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank
Kim.
you.
I apologize, I should have brought you up earlier. Okay, that being said, Bill 209-38 has been duly heard, and we're going to move on to the next bill on the agenda. You may be excused. Thank you. Okay. So the next bill on the agenda is Bill number 225-38. And this bill was introduced by Shawn Gumataotao, an act to amend 58110 of Article 1 and to amend 58205 of Article 2, both of Chapter 58, Title 12, Guam Code Annotated, Rev. to expanding the public investment and community contributions under Guam's qualifying certificate law to include emergency response resources. A physical note was submitted to our office on December 9, 2025. BBMR stated the bill is administrative in nature and poses no impact upon the government of Guam funds in FY26. Legal counsel had the opportunity to review the bill, and during its review, at this time, they say that there are no recommendations, changes, or amendments at this time. We also encouraged invitations to attend this public hearing to the Department of Revenue and Taxation, Guam Fire Department, Guam Economic Development Authority, and the Guam Visitors Bureau. And at this time, I'd like to invite those who are going to be here to testify to please come to the table, and I will turn the microphone over to the author of this legislation, Senator Shawn Gumataotao. You are now recognized.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and good morning to you and to everyone here for this public hearing, and thank you again for scheduling the public hearing on Bill 225. Madam Chair, this past November 4th, 2025, I participated in an early morning meeting with Guam Visitors Bureau President Regine Bisco Lee, Fire Chief Darren Burrier, Deputy Fire Chief Joey St. Nicholas, and other GFD officials. The meeting was arranged to help move discussions forward regarding GVB and GFD's ongoing efforts to establish a rescue base in the tourism district in Tumon. Through our discussion on GFD's operational needs in support of our hotel district, Chief Burrier recommended that the Committee on Public Safety, Emergency Management, and your Guam National Guard consider the broader challenges affecting our emergency response capabilities and a couple of potential solutions, including amendments to Guam's qualifying certificates law. During our initial and follow-up meetings, we all agreed that Guam cannot expand our visitor plant without finding a way to support critical life safety resources and equipment that help both residents and tourists alike. Madam Chair, I believe that a QC amendment in our primary hotel district can do just that. If approved, Bill 225 amends the QC law so that public investments and community contributions, which are required as a condition of receiving certain tax incentives, are prioritized for resources which are needed, particularly in response to firefighting and rescue services involving high-rise hotels. Madam Chair, this measure as drafted prioritizes public safety investments to ensure that Guam's first responders remain well-equipped across our island, to include Tumon Bay and the surrounding area, where safety resources, aerial ladder fire trucks, ambulances, and water rescue equipment are either limited or just unavailable. Madam Chair, for reference, according to GFD's fiscal year 2026 budget requests, the department only had 7 out of its 15 fire trucks operational as of April 2025. 2 of the 7 fire trucks are 2024 models, and the remaining 5 fire trucks are older models from 2011, 2 from 2006, 2005, and 2000, respectively. As of November 2025, GFD received $5 million in federal funding from the United States Department of the Interior for the procurement of fuel-efficient fire engines. Madam Chair, it is clear that GFD needs additional resources. The department has asked for our help, and this measure, and if enacted, responds to that most important request. Also, Bill 225 ensures that responsible economic development occurs together with resource capacity growth across Guam's public safety entities. I thank GFD for pushing forward with a policy proposal, and got to give GVB some credit too, that I believe really is worthy of discussion, debate, and formal consideration by this Guam legislature. I look forward to the presentations this morning, and I will work with your committee, Madam Chair, on any amendments that might be needed to help make Bill 225 moving forward a very purposive bill, an important one for all of the people of Guam. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome, Senator Gumataotao. And at this time, we have those sitting in front of us testifying. And you know what? I'm going to start off with Matthew to do an explanation, right, of the QC program first, and then we're going to move on to, continue with Gita and have Ed, you'll go next, and then we'll go to the fire chief. If that's okay, gentlemen, we're good? Okay. Matthew, you're now recognized.
Hafiday, good morning, Chairwoman Taitague and senators and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Baza. I am the Assistant Manager for Business and Economic Development at GIDA. Our division manages the application process, processing of applications for qualifying certificates by action by the Governor of Guam. I do know that our CEO, Tina Garcia, did send in written testimony. I know you guys all have copies of that. So I don't know if I necessarily should read that again, but with regards to the qualifying certificate program, and Ms. Garcia stated this in her testimony, that the QC is primarily an investment incentive program. So it is geared at, it looks at certain industries and activities that the government of Guam has deemed important for the economic development of Guam. And if a business comes in and says, we're going to make an investment of a certain amount, hire a certain number of people, and comply with the requirements of the QC law, will the board consider recommending approval of the QC to the Governor of Guam? After it goes through a review and it does get recommended by the board and the Governor does approve it, the business gets a QC and they are at that point a beneficiary. What Bill 225 looks to do is it looks to amend the condition of benefits, which is in 58110 of Article 1 and in 58205, I think, of Article 2 or 6, one of the sections regarding community contributions for QCs. In general, what the board does what management does with the board in looking at an application is saying, okay, what does this company look like they're going to do in terms of their business activity, their revenue, what might their taxes look like at the end of the day. And then there's a determination on, the law does allow for the assessment of community contributions or public investments. This is the same thing called with two different names. And then the board sort of makes a determination to say, we think that an amount of this is appropriate for the business size, the number of jobs they're going to create, and sort of what the tax benefits may look like. When looking at this bill, and in Mrs. Garcia's testimony, public safety has always been one of the priority areas that gets put into the actual contract for community contributions or public investments. What GIDA has done over the last 5 years, or maybe 7 years, is we've established a program called the Qualifying Certificate Community Contribution Grant Program. And it is a way for us to deploy the money paid in by the beneficiaries to various causes. And then it's listed in there. And public safety has been listed. The awards for this are smaller amounts. Doing some quick research on the cost for an ambulance or a fire truck or vehicles of that nature, those are significant costs, and we understand that's why GFD and the other public safety agencies really are looking, and rightfully so, for a funding source for those, those pieces of equipment. But we have given money through our grant program to the fire department, to GPD for drones, for other programs, but they're smaller amounts. So with regards to the bill, GIDA has done that in the past. The QC contracts that have been signed by the governor do state public safety in there, but it's really contingent on the amount of contribution being paid in the contract by the beneficiary, as well as whether or not the applicant, in looking at what GIDA may be asking them to do under the program versus when they run the math on, okay, if I am eligible under this QC for a 75% rebate on my income tax, because that really is the main benefit of the program. And if they're looking at that math and they're saying, oh, the government may want me to procure this product or this item for the government, but my benefit is this amount, and they do the math and they say, oh, that's going to eat up 50% or 60, 70% of the benefit I am projected to receive if my business goes the way I'm hoping it goes, then it might be a difficulty for the applicant to say, I want to proceed further with the QC application. So in a nutshell, that's just sort of in the context of what the bill is looking to do, sort of a nutshell on that aspect. We certainly understand the value of the bill, and we certainly understand we have our willingness to help however we can to find those resources for the fire department and GPD and the other public safety agencies. But as echoed in Ms. Garcia's testimony, we just wanted to point that out for the committee so that they're fully aware of how much resources may be available if the bill is passed. And it's also contingent on the amount of QCs that get issued. We don't have a huge number of QCs. QCs have a very stringent list of compliance requirements, employment numbers they have to maintain, and sometimes in the course of the application process, some applicants say, you know what, we've decided not to pursue it, or we've had some QCs that are in effect, and then because of business conditions being what they are, or just changes in the economy or the structure of their business, they've actually had to pull back on their QCs. So we just want to let the committee be aware of the sort of the fluid nature of QCs, and that it may not be a fully reliable funding source, but definitely we do what we can with the money we do receive to support public safety, culture, education, healthcare, nonprofit organizations, and things like that. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt. And
Yes.
at this time, Ed, can you read your testimony into the record, please? Oh, okay. Matt, you continue on.
Okay, so then I will also read the testimony. So my boss told me to do it, so I'm going to do it. So this is testimony from Ms. Cristina Garcia, our CEO. The Guam Economic Development Authority has conducted a review of Bill 225-38 as requested. The bill aims to adjust the requisite public investments and community contributions authorized in the QC program and special hotel QC programs into priority areas, with a new priority area added for public safety vehicles. Although the bill's goals are commendable, GIDA would like to point out some aspects of the bill that could have further discussion. QCs and special hotel QCs provide tax benefits in the form of tax rebates, tax abatements, or both in exchange for employment, investment, and community contribution requirements. In turn, the public investments and community contributions are distributed out in the form of grants to support various nonprofit organizations and government organizations. As it currently stands, the QC law already allows for public investments to be used for public safety vehicles, subject to the terms and conditions of the QC and the availability of funds. However, it is crucial to highlight the fact that QCs and special hotel QCs are fixed-term contracts. The contributions made by QC beneficiaries are spread out over the term of the QC. As such, the community contributions and public investments paid by the QC beneficiaries generally may not be considered a reliable and consistent funding source for procurements of this nature and costs. In general, QC public investments and community contributions have gone to grant awards that support economic development, the improvement of public spaces, cultural projects, and healthcare workforce development, among others, including public safety. In recent years, these grants have been awarded via the GIDA Qualifying Certificate Community Contribution Grant Program. Most of these awards have been in the $25,000 range. GIDA sees the value in finding ways to provide consistent funding for much-needed public safety vehicles. However, QCs do not provide a consistent funding source. QCs are contingent on several factors, and the public investment amounts vary based on business size, projected revenues, and other factors. For example, one QC holder has had financial difficulties in making their annual community contributions, which has delayed current contributions to important programs to include the UOG and GCC nursing programs. The exception to this, of course, is the fixed 0.5% community contribution rate of the Special Hotel QC program. However, the total number of Special Hotel QCs issued and still in effect as of this year is 1, with currently 1 application under review. However, all community contributions for the 1 Special Hotel QC currently in effect have already been paid, and no additional contributions are expected. Lastly, it is important to point out that QCs are investment tools. While GIDA always examines the applicability of assessing public investment / community contributions to QC beneficiaries, the amounts of such contributions must be balanced with the projected performance of the beneficiary's business activities. Public safety vehicles carry considerable costs to purchase and maintain, with such costs possibly being so high that the applicant may rescind their QC application because the costs will outweigh the benefits. Thank you for your time and attention. Regarding some initial thoughts on Bill 225, please feel free to contact our office should you have any questions. Signed, Cristina Garcia, GIDA CEO, Administrator.
Thank you, Matt, for reading it into the record. And at this time, I'd like to recognize the chief. Oh, Ed, now you want to talk? Okay, you can talk now. You're recognized.
I don't need to. Good morning, Senators. My name is Ed Camacho. I'm the Business and Economic Development Manager for GIDA. We had it reversed. I was going to answer the questions, and Matt was going to read it, but you started out with the questions, so. But I'd just like to add a few comments. We currently have 10 active QCs only. 2 of them will be coming off the end of this month. 1 because they no longer want to perform the service anymore, and the other one, the expiration's on the 20th of February. So by the end of this month, we'll have 8. Of the 8 QCs, the big one we have, that they're the ones that's having financial difficulties, not making the bulk of the community contribution. The others account for less than $100,000 a year. So it's not significant because they're very small businesses. And I just wanted to make sure we throw that out there that in talking to the chief of it, there's a big need for this, and there could be other ways that outside the QC, but if you want to put it in the QC, it could be done, but it's a negotiating thing at the end. When you're looking at a small pot of money, part of it goes to these nonprofit organizations and the government through our QCC program. We take 1/3 of that. So if you're looking at $100,000, not including the big one, you're only looking at $33,000, $40,000 a year. So it's a challenge, and we've seen the QCs go from over 20 QCs when Matt and I first joined over 10 years ago to 8. And a lot of the QCs we had were related to insurance and some of the hotels, but they're all coming off already. And we are actively trying to promote the QC program But as our economy starts to come out of where it was because of the tourism industry, still suffering a little, we are seeing more activity now, and we're hoping to see more QCs authorized in the coming years. Another thing that Matt mentioned that I want to also mention is most recently we had an applicant come in for a QC, and he almost pulled the QC out because of the negotiation of the public investment. If it's too high in relationship to the benefit he's going to get, he may not want to move forward with all the compliance activities and paying because they're not anticipated to make an income for a while. And that's how these big businesses look at it. It takes a long time before they can file an income tax return. If you see and there's one that went back several years ago, it took 19 years to have an income tax liability, but he wanted to cancel the QC anyways because he just wasn't profitable. So it's a challenge to balance for the business, to balance of making a public investment or community contribution with the revenue that they're making with the company. And it's more trying now because where our economy now is now. But we feel it's going to get better, and adding this to the QC is not a bad thing to do. It's not a reliable funding source. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Very welcome, Ed. Thank you. Chief, you're recognized.
Thank you. Fire Chief Darren Burrier, Guam Fire Department. First off, I just want to say I appreciate the testimony of GITA on explaining their status and the proposal of this bill. In the fire department, our main intent is to find an alternative funding source in order to achieve our ability to respond to all emergencies. As the fire department is not just fire department, but it's an all emergency response department. And the burden of us to meet our mandates and be able to respond accordingly, we need to have that of a shared burden in order to achieve the equipment and trainings that we need in order to respond. And because it comes with a price tag, and understanding how the QC works, just to be able to have this discussion in order to improve our ability to identify these kind of funding sources that can help us achieve that. So thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Chai and Senator Gumataotao, for this opportunity to provide testimony in strong support of the Bill 225-38. This legislation proposes targeted amendments to Guam's qualifying certificates law to ensure the public investment and community contributions tied to major economic development projects and directly support critical emergency response resources. This measure is timely and necessary and aligned with operational realities faced by Guam Fire Department as we work to protect a rapidly developing island. As Fire Chief of the Guam Fire Department, I fully support this QC program as has long served us as a tool to promote responsible economic development. Bill number 225 strengthens that framework by ensuring that as Guam's private sector growth accelerates, particularly in high-rise construction, technology-based industries, our emergency response capabilities are left behind. The bill recognizes a simple but essential truth: economic development and public safety must advance together. Operational need, the legislation findings accurately capture the challenges GFD continues to face in maintaining an adequate fire and emergency response posture amid the rapid pace of development across Guam. Over the past 15 years, Guam has experienced a dramatic increase in multi-story construction, especially within the tourism corridor. Today, we are also witnessing accelerated growth in technology-based industries such as data centers, solar farms, and other critical infrastructure projects. These facilities introduce new and complex hazards, electrical, structural, environmental, and operational, that significantly increase risks to the public, to our visitors, and to firefighters who respond to these emergencies. And yes, according to our FY 2026 budget request, only 7 of our 15 fire trucks were operational as of April 2025, while we have since increased that number to 9 fire trucks. Many of these units remain well beyond their ideal service life. 2 are 2024 models, while the remaining apparatuses date back to 2011, 2006, 2005, and even 2000. These aging vehicles limit our ability to respond effectively to emergencies in high-density, high-risk environments. High-rise firefighting, technical rescue operations, and water-based emergencies require specialized equipment, and particularly aerial ladders, modern ambulances, and water rescue assets capable of supporting complex simultaneous incidents. GFD is grateful for the $5 million in federal funding received in November 2025 for fuel-efficient fire engines, but this support addresses only a portion of our overall needs. The scale and pace of Guam's development require a sustainable, locally driven mechanism to ensure that emergency response capabilities grow in parallel with private sector investment. Bill 22538 provides exactly that pathway. The bill provides public safety framework in 3 critical ways: prioritizing emergency response resources. The bill explicitly includes aerial ladder fire trucks, ambulances, police vehicles, and water equipment, rescue equipment as eligible public investments under subsection 58110 of the QC law. Number 2, aligning community contributions with public safety needs under subsection 58205. Emergency response resources become the top priority for community contributions under the special hotel QC. This ensures that as new hotels rise, the emergency response infrastructure required to protect them rises as well. Ensuring balanced, responsible growth. Guam's economic development cannot outpace its public safety capacity. This bill ensures that growth is matched with the resources needed to protect life, property, and tourism industry that drives our economy. Tourism is Guam's economic engine. Visitor confidence depends on the island's ability to respond rapidly and effectively to emergencies. High-rise hotels, dense pedestrian activity, and coastal environments create unique risks that require specialized capabilities. Investing in emergency response resources is not merely a cost, it's a safeguard for Guam's economic future. Bill 225 is a forward-looking and necessary measure that strengthens Guam's public safety infrastructure, supports responsible economic development, and ensures that Guam Fire Department has tools required to protect both residents and visitors. On behalf of the men and women of the Guam Fire Department, I respectfully urge the legislature to pass this bill. Thank you for your time, commitment to public safety, and available for any questions.
Thank you so much, Chief. Senator Gumataotao, you're recognized first for any questions you may have.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll just start with the Chief, and this is only one question for you to kind of make this, for this conversation today. What information is available summarizing the extent to which GFD has had to engage its federal or military counterparts over the last 3 years from your experience prior to and becoming Chief, to use maybe emergency medical rescue operations that might need bigger capacity, boats, and other resources that are outside of GFD's vehicle and equipment inventory or capabilities?
I didn't catch all that.
In your time, before you became Chief and since, can you summarize how many times you've had to engage your fellow firefighters from the federal side, the military, over the past couple years, 3 years, for any fire, emergency medical, rescue operations that requires these resources that are outside of your particular inventory or capabilities?
That's a kind of a timely question. We are currently conducting a SAR mission over at Tangeeson Beach for a missing fisherman, and we are currently using HSC-25 helicopters for search, and also the Coast Guard is made available to us. And in the past, numerous times we have used the Coast Guard for both local drownings and tourism-related drownings. And the thing is, I don't really differentiate between the two because we respond to all of them. So, in any drowning that occurs, even this one today, affects tourism because the tourists see this. And we have, on average, about 12 a year that we respond to for SAR missions for drownings or search and rescues over the reef. And as far as mutual aid with ambulance services, we do use them. It's about it's around a 4 to 5% of our total runs for the year where we'll use a mutual aid ambulance. But when we need them, as we use them sparingly when it's needed, they do make an impact. And so having the proper amount of ambulances and ambulances in reserves is very important. Having the proper rescue equipment, along with the drones as we've received from GEDA, rescue jet skis, and other rescue capability devices, it will make a big difference. What we currently don't have, and no one has on island, is an aerial truck. I believe the Navy had an aerial truck. I'm not sure if they still do, but it's not capable to respond because of their mission needs to the hotel area. And to reach some of the hotels on the different levels, it is an important infrastructure upgrade for us to have an aerial unit to be able to reach the higher floors and to fight fires at that level.
Okay, just on this, I was only going to ask you one question, but I would ask you one additional question. When we think of response times from the nearest stations into Tumon, what is the average amount of response time from either Station 1 or DECEPTIVE for any type of rescue or emergency response into Tumon?
As far as for fire engine units, the average response time, if they have to go down there, it's going to be within 5 to 10 minutes coming from Tumuning or from DECEPTIVE. Ambulances is about the same. It's the rescue unit that becomes more critical because of the type of life risk that's happening. They're coming from DECEPTIVE currently. And as you know, we are in discussions with GVB and yourself as far as putting up a rescue base in Matapang Beach. And that would be essential because when we have staged there during Golden Weeks in the past, our rescue response time is within minutes, whereas it would take us 10, 15 minutes to get there because the rescue units would have to come by jet ski or boat coming from the Ganya Marina, and then they would have from the DECEPTIVE fire station where that unit that would be replaced, be positioned in Matapang, comes from DECEPTIVE, they would have to then hitch up their jet skis and stuff and respond down. So it's a little bit longer of a response time for that kind of situation.
Thank you for that, Chief. And why I asked that, Madam Chair, and I'll go to Gita now, and my recollection of the confirmation hearing of your administrator, she was very bullish on the qualifying certificate program. A little distressed to hear this morning that we were enjoying at a time of 20, we're down to 8. This is not intended for the current today. Perhaps it can help. I think we're looking at this bill as a way moving forward as you all ramp up your efforts to market. I mean, I've been in here for 12 months at least, and I've heard some great things. Today was a little bit different than I would have expected from Gita when you guys are telling us publicly there's these things happening. I'm not worried about the fact that we're low, it's lower, because you guys are working diligently, I'm sure, to build it back up beyond 20. I mean, we don't have to go down too far if we're all in a big effort to help bring more resources to Guam in terms of hoteliers, industry. This bill is to make sure that when that happens, that priority-wise, we will put our money into our public safety agencies. I get it. I get what you're saying that, oh, we can't afford enough. Perhaps we can do a drone. We can do rappelling equipment. I get that part. I'm not talking about in this moment. But the outlook, when we think about what's happening today, are you guys telling me right now you don't have 10, 15 people waiting to come into Guam today over the next few years? I'm sure you're getting inquiries all the time because during that confirmation hearing, that was mentioned on the record. Can you help me understand, am I seeing this wrong? And please be very straight. Am I wrong?
Thank you, Senator. No, you're not wrong. We constantly are talking to investors looking at Guam. It's a challenge for them based on where our economy is now. But let me go back to that 20 I was mentioning too. Back in 2016, 2017, when tourism was our primary, there was a Vision 2020 that they wanted to build, 1,600 new rooms. Matt and I were there, we ran the programs. Basically, we had interest and some applications totaling over 2,500 rooms. What happened in 2016 or 17? USCIS started denying all the H-2B applications. We come out of that in 2018, 2019, 2020, we get hit by COVID. We start coming at that in 2022, 23, Typhoon Mawar. So, but during those times, we're still marketing Guam overseas. We are going out to what's called Select USA soon in May to continue to market Guam as a very responsible and profitable investment destination. We have in the past, let's just say in the past 6 months, have had businesses coming in wanting to look at developing a electric vehicle industry on Guam to make electric vehicles and batteries. That was to the tune of over $1 billion. Lo and behold, they're going to Saipan. We had a big pharmaceutical company we met 3 or 4 years ago. We brought them into Guam. They came into Guam. We rolled out the red carpet, very interested. That didn't happen either. Lo and behold, they're looking at Saipan. So we need to look at our offerings here and what we're doing to make it a little easier for investments to come in, because our neighbors next door are rolling out the red carpet for these guys. And this is something we're talking about at GITA right now, because we're seeing a lot of it coming in. And a lot of it's going to be in the industries of aquaculture. We're trying to get technology in with additive manufacturing, some AI infrastructure being built. GITA's also looking at an industrial park, trying to purchase land or look for land, government land, to build an industrial park. Because we're seeing that when the government goes out to invite these investors, they're looking at what's happening in Asia, because most of our trade missions are in Asia. They're looking at, here's a government asking me to come in. What are you going to do for me, government? Are you going to give me land? That doesn't happen in Guam. So we're rethinking what we're doing now to try to make sure we're more lucrative in the future. But yeah, we are seeing investments coming in. Good example is the company that bought out the Pacific Star. They're working with us on a QC. And talking to the chief over here, that would be a prime QC that you target any big investments over X dollar. Maybe that contribution would be slanted that way. Build it in that way. We just got to work it. We got to look at what we can do. And there's others out there in this industry we're talking about. There's another hotel who wants to do renovation. How do we target those that are over 10-story high? Maybe some of that will go over there, so you can get up beyond 10 stories and service if necessary, if something happens over there. Right now, our QC holders are small. We're looking at all types of QC holders. And there's a lot of things we're doing right now to get them, but there's a lot of things that still need to be done to make us more competitive. And a lot of it back then was a lot easier because we had a bolstering tourism industry. It's easy to go out and get somebody to come in and invest in tourism on Guam. Now it's a little more challenging. And we're also thinking about what happens if you see DFS leaving. What are we going to do about that? We see Lotte, not sure what's going to, well, they're going to leave in June unless something happens. How do we get investors? And GITA's already planning for a 2026 Select Guam Investment Symposium where we invite investors to Guam. But we're still unsure of that because we don't want to bring investors in when there's nobody at the airport. There's a lot of things, and there's no investments going on. So there's a lot of things we're doing to look at our economy now and reset. We got to reset. We got to come up with why now? How do we differentiate ourselves now? And that's what Matt and I have been spending a lot of time on, trying to figure out where do we go. And we want to have a stakeholders meeting with the private sector too, to find out what they want, they think, how they're going to contribute to this thing. So these are all on the drawing boards. It's moving, but there's a lot more we can do to get investments in Guam, but there's a lot out there. And it's also requiring modification of the QC too. We got to look at that.
No, and I appreciate what you just said, because in order to maybe some of the industries you mentioned, the Guam Fire Department is going to need to be able to put out a fire in a data center. They're going to have to address emergencies on a solar farm. So by prioritizing these types of programs, right? And I think, and I appreciate what you just mentioned, but yes, in tandem, it makes a lot of sense that if we're going to pursue these industries, we have to be able to equip those folks when they need it most to be able to either address an emergency. Hence why the purpose of why we came up with this idea to utilize an important program like the QC program. Yes, I was inspired by your executive director's in her confirmation hearing, because I could see her vision. I could see yours. But we also need to see that while we have that vision, our public safety agencies also need to be able to go with you to make sure that when something does happen, that they're prepared to help the industries when they need it the most. Go ahead, please.
Senator, if I can add, I think, going back just sort of the mechanics of how it would work, I think it's definitely good that you're looking at putting this in the law and calling it out and saying, we need to prioritize this. So, and I think as this moves forward through the process, one of the things that we would end up doing is we would end up talking very closely with the public safety agencies, the fire department, to say, okay, what are your needs? What needs do you think the QC might be able to help fulfill as we continue our push forward? Because understanding, the cost for an aerial truck and an ambulance and those things and saying, this is what we're looking for, we can sort of look at it, and then as Ed said, we can look and see, okay, what kind of businesses are looking at making an investment of a certain size? I also think, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that the QC remains a strong incentive tool. Just using some quick math, if you had a business that received a 75% income tax rebate, right, and their income tax was, the three main benefits, or the two main benefits really that kind of across the board anyone can get, is a property tax abatement of 100% for up to 10 years, and a rebate of up to 75% for 20 years. A few other industries have a little bit different benefit structure, but those are the main benefits. Yeah, income tax rebate for up to 20 years, up to 75%. So let's say you had a business that had a $60,000 real property tax, or let's just go high, $100,000 property tax abatement, and then they had $100,000 corporate tax rate, 21%. Let's say they had $100,000 income tax liability for the year, they got 75% back. You're looking all up, that business received $175,000 in tax benefits for the year from the government of Guam. We would make sure we would work with the fire department to understand what kind of need do we think this beneficiary could contribute in relation to the benefit that they're thinking they're going to receive, or they actually are looking at receiving, so that the tool that is the QC to help further entice the investment is a win-win for the government, the win-win for the people, and a win-win for the beneficiary. That's, I think, sort of why our comments and Tina's testimony was written that way, to say we just want to sort of manage the expectations. As more QCs come in, there could be a distribution of how that goes out as the law is written. There could be a mechanism in place with the public safety agencies to maybe pull some money together. But that will, as the QCs come in and that grows, that will happen. But we have to make sure that any one beneficiary, we're making it reasonable for them, what we're asking them to contribute as a public investment or a community contribution in relation to their investment amount and what they're anticipating they may receive based on their projections.
So it sounds, okay, so then let me ask you this, because you've been there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you engaged a public safety agency on a QC application?
Well, because we've been doing it through the QC grants, we've been engaging them that way. With the QCs, like you said, Senator, you are correct. With the QCs that are already in force, those contracts are written, right? So we work with the public safety agencies, and the chief referenced they receive drones through that program that way. Moving forward, especially now that this is considered a priority for the legislature, and it's the bill is going to move forward in the process. They will be one of the entities that are going to be reached out to communicate with regards to also healthcare. A lot of the QC money has gone to support nursing programs at GCC and UOG. We've given grants to like Gumamami. And there's also been at any point, and the agencies know this well. We've had public agencies also send letters to GITA for the board to consider, hey, we really have a need for this. Is there any money in the QC contributions to support that? If there is, the board does sort of look at that. But moving forward, definitely, Senator, because a priority is placed on this, and because we are looking at growing the amount of QCs over the next year or two in the coming few years, we definitely will have more robust contact with the public safety agencies to determine what their needs are and how best we can assist them through the QC program.
We're going to hold you that, by the way. Secondly, I think that's something that I think he is happy to hear, and I think Chief Ignacio and the other public safety agencies who do work, and especially with some of these beneficiaries. And I think that's where this was all about. It was as we are starting to identify these programs, like a data center or a solar farm, those have such, Madam Chair, I'll wrap up with this, is that these guys, the work they deal in, the materials, and the hazards pose an even greater hazard to the men and women who have to go and address those emergencies. So we're trying to find a way to be a little bit more synergistic as we are doing the QC programs to ensure that they address these critical needs. Yes, I know what you're saying. Perhaps we need a drone or two, whatever the case might be. But those are low dollar amounts, I get it. But we have to spend time as we're bringing these on. If we don't give them the resources they need, a lot of people could get hurt.
One thing I will say, in the QCs, when we look at a QC, if there's a QC that, and this happened, of a QC that is sort of focused on healthcare, then the priority, we kind of look at what that business is doing in Guam and sort of where their focus is and how they're their biggest impact in the community, and we sort of say, we want to target your contributions to help grow that industry. So if it's a healthcare business, we say, you know what, we want to prioritize using a lot of that money to more nurses, nursing programs, healthcare services. So
no, I totally get it. That's why I'm saying now's the time to say, public safety, we have these emerging industries with these requirements. We need to bring you in. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so just like Ed echoed, if it's a hotel of a certain height, maybe we really need to focus on prioritizing that public safety equipment for that hotel through the QC program. So really, we look at it that way, and I think that's how we're going to continue to look at it with further collaboration with the public safety agencies.
I'm going to hold it. Go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Senator, that's a good point. We will definitely move forward with those considerations. You talk about farming, certain type of farming. We got to reach out to the entity, the government entity that really regulates that. So making sure how do we benefit that? We have solar energy. We got to look at the entities that support that. Tourism industry, like we're saying, those high rises, that's got to be a priority because it doesn't exist right now. But we will move forward with those considerations, guaranteed.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time. I appreciate you again.
Very welcome. Senator Chulahi, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you all for your testimony. I'm just wondering if GITA, since these QCs are subject to, the benefits are subject to negotiation between the authority and the developer. For the hotel QCs, distribution of funds are approved by the GITA board based on recommendation of the administrator. And then the law says it includes the following areas. Can we just get a spreadsheet of the benefits that actually have been provided over the years? Maybe the last few, so we can see what happened in the past and what benefits you have negotiated so far. And I know you've done the grant program, and then just a list of which QCs are being distributed by grant, and then where did those grants go?
Yes, we can get that information to you, but I want to be clear. It's the amount they're putting in or how we're pushing it out to the community through all these programs. Because when we look at our QCC program, there could be 20, 25 different nonprofit organizations receiving this money.
Yes.
So you want to see that?
Yes.
Who are they going to?
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
For example, the GRMC QC, what was negotiated as benefits for them, tax benefits versus other benefits. There's a list of other options that GITA has, and then if there are community contributions or the other one, the public investments, right? The other thing is, I guess I just want to check, Chief, I very well noted your testimony on the needs, and that was backed up by the testimony of the Homeland Security on kind of what are we doing without these, if this is a risk. And I am curious, so what happens in the permitting process when fire department reviews these applications for the variances, for the height or other things, if you think you're not able to fully, respond to the high rises? I think you call them multi-story constructions, or what happens in that review? Does the fire department, are they able to put in any input that says we're not able to respond, or we can only respond to these multi-story construction projects if you put in these certain things that would help you in lieu of the particular aerial ladder fire trucks.
When we do our plan reviews through our Fire Prevention Bureau, they look through it in accordance to the NFPA, the fire code that we follow, and making sure that it meets all the fire protection requirements. So that means standpipes, sprinkler systems, and it's the building's ability to bring water to the floor that's going to be having a fire, right? So all buildings have that. They have an internal protection system in order to help either eliminate or minimize the fire spread. However, we do know through fires you've seen around the world that doesn't always happen. There tends to be stronger ones. So we prepare ourselves in due regard in how we're going to respond. So each of our units, even though we don't have an aerial, we have what's called a high-rise pack. It's where the firefighter carries hoses with him to a certain length, depending on the building and the floor he's going to go on, where the standpipes are located. And our firefighters, they do active pre-fire planning. After the plan reviews, the building goes up, we do active pre-fire planning to determine our course of action in case of a fire. So if a fire's happened on a 10th floor or 15th floor of a building, yes, an aerial will help us achieve that height a little faster, a lot faster, and also to bring a hand line to the top of the aerial to be able to direct a stream from outside to inside. But our firefighters are trained and have the ability to go up the flights of stairs in order to engage the fire and how they fight the fire that way. And even without the aerial, they're going to have to do that. So they do that. It's just that going up the flights of stairs takes time.
Of course,
and our firefighters they're wearing turnout gear that weighs close to 100 pounds, and the high-rise pack itself is going to be another 80 pounds.
No, I'm not asking,
Yeah.
So I appreciate that, and I agree that we should prioritize if the only more ideal response is an aerial ladder fire truck. But I'm just saying, when these companies are coming in and making their proposals to exceed the height variance, for example, or the capacity of, they go for these conditional use applications, the fire department reviews. So you're saying you only review for building code, you don't review for, they're saying you're supposed to decide whether there's adequate fire flow, whether
Yes.
there's
Yes, that's part of the plan review. We make sure that there's adequate fire flow
All right.
going to all floors through the standpipe system. We make sure that there is standpipes that we can hook up to with our fire hose on each of the floors. So that is done, and that having a lack of an aerial doesn't restrict the building from being approved and being built. It's just, in order for us to keep pace with these high rises, we would need more efficient tools to be able to address that emergency more effectively and to reduce life hazard, life risk, and also reduce property damage.
Yeah, I want you to have those tools. My question is, can we get that up front? When they're building these things, can we mandate a little bit more of what they put in there? Because of, in plain view, right now, we do not have the aerial ladder truck, so can they be required to put in something additional to compensate for that?
If we want to address introducing a bill that requires any high-rise building that's going up to fund an aerial truck, I'd be happy to do that.
That's kind of what this is doing.
Well,
they're saying if you're going to get a QC, then
Yeah,
you have to
but
fund
you're-
that.
you're-
That's this bill here. But
the
no,
way you-
I'm not asking that. I'm
Yeah.
asking,
if there's a mandate that we can do, well, that would require a law. For us to mandate a developer to buy us the proper vehicle to fight that fire,
well,
we can't mandate in the building
the
code.
fire department is part of this review, right, of these things. And
Yes.
just like all the other agencies, they're supposed to say what about this development they're going to be able to handle or not handle, or it's good for Guam, not good for Guam, going to impede safety for the rest of the community, if things like that. So, for example, let's use the solar farm. Are there any requirements? They're saying this new and complex hazards, electrical, structural, environmental, and operational, inviting fires or other hazards at the solar farms. Do you, as the fire department, require the solar farms to put in something to mitigate the harm or the risks to
Yes,
you?
as with all building codes and with all those kind of structures, there is in the fire code measures for them to how they build it and what is involved. So in the solar farms, if they have a battery storage containment facility, which is if they do have batteries to store energy, they have to have a battery storage containment facility, which is a concrete, basically a concrete bunker. And it also has to have proper firefighting. Along with the data centers, they're gonna have like a halon system in there to address the firefighting. But that is to help prevent the fires from happening, from spreading. For our primary business there is fire prevention, but as it's shown even in Nationwide, that there is the opportunity for that to go beyond that fire suppression system. So we do everything we can do by our mandates to mitigate the risk of property damage and the fire from spreading and life risk. So as for an example, in California recently, they had a battery storage facility, containment facility that caught fire. Unfortunately, those lithium-ion batteries that they have in there, we cannot put them out with water. They will continue burning underwater. So as we're learning, as the new industry is coming up nationwide, we're learning that it basically has to be submerged underwater. So the battery containment facility would probably, as we go forward, and it's an industry movement, is as they're showing like EV vehicles, to put them into a containment that they fill with water and let it continue to burn for the next 4 or 5 days until it goes out, and that would contain and minimize the toxic plume that comes up from it and whatever other environmental issues. Yeah. So we have to be able to have proper training to deal with these, because as the one in California, they went to deal with it, they end up putting about 5 firefighters in the hospital, 2 firefighters with lifetime disabilities, because of the danger involved with it. Sure. And then you're looking at long-term dangers being exposed to this with carcinogenics. Mm-hmm. So we need to be able to prepare our people, one, through proper training with the new technology that's coming on, proper training and to be able to combat fires in high-rise buildings, and proper equipment to be able to achieve that end. And as far as like high-rises, our high-rises, if we get it, it will go up to a certain height. All of them do. They don't go to the maximum height of the building. Just like in the World Trade Centers, they went up the stairs because their high-rises were ineffective for the level it was. So we still have to be prepared. The buildings still have to be properly approved and inspected, that they have the proper firefighting capabilities within the building, within the structure. And then the firefighters will then take care of the matter if it extends beyond that. And that's what our job is. And so we're prepared to take care of whatever needs to be done outside, but in order to make our job more effective, having these other special tools and special trainings, we would be able to help reduce life risk of the firefighters, of the public that's exposed to it, and having the ability to suppress the fire before it spreads to an uncontained and uncontrolled.
Okay, so I have no objection to you getting these tools. That's not what my question is. So I support it. I want you to get it. I think they're saying they might not be able to get it all in one piece, this big cost. And so we're not sure if that's actually going to realize, right? The big, for example, the big aerial ladder fire truck. But in the meantime, that's what I'm asking for. For example, so as you described the solar farms, if that's what they've learned about the battery cells and the burning and how they need to be submerged in water for days. I mean, can we make that this evolving knowledge, I guess, that we are learning from across the world, can we incorporate that when we are reviewing these applications and saying, well, we want you to build your not just in a bunker, but in a bunker that can be encapsulated by this kind of water structure?
Well, yeah, we do that
like
at our fire prevention level as a solar farm that's going in up in Dedo area, in Two Lovers area. Having them put in the proper hydrants within their compound in order for us to address any fires. They're required to build their, if they're building a battery storage facility, we have included in enforcing on our side the most updated fire code, because we are enforcing, I believe it's a 2009 fire code right now, until the board meets to be able to update all of our fire code. We do pull if it determines on the life safety issue and the need for it to come up, then we substantiate and validate that we have to enforce this newer code. So our prevention officers are looking at the newest code as far as how that is. But I'm saying firefighting, it's a dynamic process.
Yes, it's going to keep
so
changing.
It always changes. So 5 years from now, what we're enforcing now may change, and then the industry changes with it. You know, just like the initial halon suppression system was very popular for electronic areas, and then that was deemed to be unhealthy for the environment, so they had to change it, and now the new halons are all meeting those capabilities. So even the fire prevention systems that we enforce today, we're able to do the best we can and protect everybody the best it is made possible within our mandates.
Right. What, on the water rescue equipment, has GVB ever invested in that?
I'm not recalling if you, no. As far as the water rescue equipment, mainly we get it through the boating safety grants that come through the Guam Police Department because they're in charge of that. So we're able to get boats, but even that needs to be addressed. Our boat now is already outdated. We need to get new rescue crafts in order for the safety of our personnel responding in rough seas. So those are issues also. We have alternative funding sources, but we also need to still look at other sources too. I mean, it's just the rapid growth of the industries. Yeah. It outpaces our ability to do it within budget.
Well, I appreciate how you're looking at other funding sources. So I'm also just looking at, other funding sources or other kind of shifts where these requirements, if we know what our capacity is, for example, for water, then we are not supposed to allow any more development because we can't exceed that. If we have a certain capacity for firefighting, we need to address that immediately. I don't want to just keep saying, we know that there's a risk we cannot address, but we're going to keep allowing it. So I appreciate you're kind of limited with this building code, but I agree. I hope that they update it as soon as possible or approve the updated versions if that will help you also with firefighting prevention. And but I do appreciate all your efforts to do this. I think we tried to do a bill before regarding, there are some QCs going towards nursing, but we tried to do others, but so we'll see. I hope GIDA's able to secure a QC or an investment large enough to get these equipment in the priority that you decide that should be. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're very welcome, Senator. Before I turn it over to have the author close on this, just a few comments, actually. I really don't have any questions. Your testimony was pretty thorough, especially on the GIDA side. The only thing I request as the Oversight Chair is that spreadsheet showing how much in the last 3 years would be good, 3 or 5 years. I know that COVID played a huge part in, not receiving some of these fundings to go into the QC program to be distributed. So in the last 3 years, and like Senator Chalahi mentioned, I'd like to see not just, how the money was distributed, but how much each entity is obligated and how much they're in. Basically, some are in arrears because we know that some QCs that were distributed, they haven't fulfilled their obligation. And because of whatever the issue could be, in our economy right now, it's pretty bad. So if I can get that spreadsheet, I appreciate it before I move forward. Other than that, Chief, continue to do the great work that you're doing and finding funding, the $5 million that you received in federal funding. I know there's an opportunity at GVB as well. As the former Deputy General Manager, we had set aside funding for public safety to give to GPD as well as Fire Department as well. So continue to go down that avenue at GVB. community for any funding there. I greatly encourage that, okay? Other than that, I'm going to turn it off for closing for Senator Gumataotao.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm just going to say that my expectations going into this hearing, I kind of, in my new experience here, wasn't really sure what I was going to expect, but I got to say to you three and to my colleagues, this was a very fascinating and conversation today, and I learned a lot. Let me just say that. Expansion beyond the GITA programs, and I sit with the fire chief a lot, but also to understand that there's, he's got a role, but just there could be a great synergy, and I just got to say I'm taking away a lot from the discussion, so thank you guys for being with us this morning. I just want to say again, Madam Chair, thank you for the public hearing on Bill 225. And my challenge to our colleagues that are here, not in attendance or might have left since it started, not a member of the Committee on Economic Investment, I ask that senators provide your input in the coming days as outlined in our rules back to this committee. I will, and she's going to do it, but I will urge our colleagues to send an email to Senator Telo@gmail.com with your input and recommended changes to make Bill 225 better. As many of you have said, to make it a point on the floor in recent sessions and our policies that we have addressed since the start of the 38th Guam legislature, I ask to make this bill better at this particular point in the process. And I know that senators and colleagues, we do have a right to change on this policy on the floor across the way, but I urge diligence and respect of our process that started here in 1951. For the record, again, any ideas to change, even if you're against it, I would say, please be a part of the markup process of Bill 225. That's our job. That's what we're elected to do. Madam Chair, as policymakers, we've received through the public hearing process information from GFD that the department requires fire trucks for its stations, fire trucks in reserve. The department has trucks in operation and they need help. GFD requires aerial fire trucks. However, they lack that aerial capability. They have ambulances, but they continue to struggle. The department currently, we were on the record about the current state of them. But Madam Chair, with more than 22,000 calls for service in 2025, requiring the response of a GFD unit, Bill 225 could not come at a more appropriate time. Resources are definitely needed at GFD, and this particular policy proposal, if approved, would modify the QC program so that contributions which are already required by law are prioritized in support of our public safety agencies. I have stated on this matter that public safety and economic development are both a public good. If approved, Bill 225 recognizes that the future expansion of Guam's economy through Guam QC's law could certainly help cover priority emergency resources for years to come. Madam Chair, I appreciate in advance the opportunity to work with your Committee on Economic Investment during the markup stage as we move Bill 225 through our legislative process. And I thank you again and our colleagues, Senator Terlahi, for being with us today, and all the stakeholders for your attendance and participation in today's public hearing. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Senator. And if there are no further questions or comments, then this concludes our discussion on Bill 2225-38 COR. My office will continue to accept written testimonies on today's hearing, and which can be mailed to my office at 238 Archbishop Flores Street, Suite 407 at the DNA building in Nakatnya. You may also send your written testimony via email at senatortelot@gmail.com. Thank you for your participation, gentlemen, for being here this morning, and create a great day, everyone. This hearing is now adjourned, and the time now is 10:55 a.m.